Well, just looking forward to the opportunity to go down and play in Vegas, and um, I see Seaman's already been playing golf down there from the looks of it, so he's enjoying his time. But just hopefully, we can build off of build off the last game, build off the fact that we have our entire roster um, to play with, which is on Saturday, which at the time Owen hadn't practiced much, so for him to have actually gotten minutes, that wasn't going to happen. He was actually able to kind of practice today for the first time, so to actually kind of have our full complement of roster to where we can have everybody at our disposal. I think that allows us to go into the tournament feeling pretty good. I think our depth is definitely something that's one of our strengths. And just now it's just a matter of going in and just taking it one day at a time, one possession at a time. And that starts off with San Jose State, who we were in the midst of watching personnel a couple of weeks ago when we were supposed to play them, and then got the phone call that the game was going to be canceled. And so we had prepared for them up to that point, had a pretty good feel for them. And so it made it a little bit easier, especially today when it was almost a refresher. Coach Prelo, who I've known for a long time, they're coming off a tough situation where they've been in quarantine since the time they got out here, not till a few days ago. So it's going to be not going to be easy for them, but they're going to be rested. I know that for a fact, and so they're a team that's dangerous if you don't defend them the right way, if you allow them to shoot a lot of threes. Washington's a guy that can really get going. And so it's one of those deals where you just, which I thought we did a really good job of the other night against UNLV, who in a lot of ways plays similar to San Jose State, where we really minimized UNLV's three-point attempts and forced them to try to beat us with twos. And San Jose State's a very dangerous team if you allow them to. They got a bunch of guys that can shoot it, and if you allow them to shoot it, then they become really dangerous. And so that's going to be the main thing as we move into that game. And but just looking forward to it and seeing what happens. Questions, Cody?
Jeff, how bizarre is it that this time a year ago you were maybe sitting on the couch watching Wyoming make a very unexpected run in the Mountain West tournament, and here you are a year later, a weird year later, getting ready to take the Cowboys into Vegas yourself.
Yeah, it was funny. I was actually watching it from the Red Lion Hotel in Boise as we were getting ready to play in the Big Sky tournament. So, it's been a long year, but it feels like just feels like yesterday. It still doesn't quite feel right. As we kind of make our way into the Mountain West tournament. It just feels different. It doesn't feel like the conference tournaments here. Probably also the weather in Laramie right now probably plays a factor that in as well. I'm not sure where the people told me the weather was really bad in Laramie. I must have caught on a really mild winter, because right now, I mean, it's been pretty nice. I see why it gets the name Laradice. So, it's been an interesting year, but just thankful for the opportunity to have the opportunity to coach the Cowboys and to have the opportunity to lead our guys into the Mountain West tournament, where, as we know, based off of last year, anything can happen. And when you get on a neutral court, strange things happen all the time. And I know this with the group of guys that we have. I mean, we're not going to be scared of anybody, and so we're just going to have to go in and compete and play well and let the chips fall where they may. Tracy.
With EK getting more and more time playing and the kind of a different role now for my boy from Pine Bluffs, leave it at that. What have you seen in him, and how well has he adapted? Thompson, yeah. How well has he adapted to
how Thompson has, or how's Grant?
How's Thompson?
Yeah, no, he's as I said the other night, the thing about Hunter is that, being a redshirt junior, he hasn't, when we inserted Graham into the starting lineup, he never blinked an eye. He never complained. And as I said, Hunter's about the team. I mean, he's about the University of Wyoming and, whatever's best for the team. He also knows too, at the end of the day, which we tell all our guys, it doesn't matter who starts the game. It's, who finishes the game. And luckily now we got enough players to where we got options to where if guys aren't doing the things necessary to help us win games, then now we got somebody else we can put in. And the bench is a great motivator, especially for guys on the defensive end of the floor and for guys that want to turn the ball over. But in case of Hunter, he just continues to work, and that's the thing that, about our program is that even as we kind of, and the basketball is the longest season of the year. I mean, there's not in any sport in college athletics. I mean, maybe baseball gets dragged out pretty far if you're good and make your way to Omaha, but college basketball is a long season. And for, our players to still want to be in the gym, and Hunter's one of those guys. I mean, he's in the gym all the time shooting, whether that's with the managers, coaches, before practice, after practice. He wants to continue to get better. He also knows a lot of open shots like he did the other night. And there'll be times too where, depending on matchup wise, as we did against Utah State, moving forward where, I'd like to play him some more at the 4. Now he's got to prove they can guard a guy at the 4. But he has the ability to keep that floor spaced when he's at the 4, with Graham, because as we see, Graham could score one-on-one against about anybody. And so he needs space, and to have shooters on the floor, shooters around him, it just makes his life easier. And so, they provide a two-headed monster where one guy can really beat you inside. The other guy, you got to prepare for 2 different posts, but then at the same time, they also complement each other when they play together at the same time. But as we kind of move our way into, next year, I think, we'll definitely see some more possibilities of them playing together. But it ultimately comes down to, can Thompson guard at the 4? And that'll be the biggest concern. But there'll be situations where that does present itself.
Because when you do have the 2 of them on the floor at the same time, that would seem to cause a lot of distractions for the other coaches, how you're going to defend Thompson out there, right?
Well, in some ways, it makes it easier because now teams, 1 through 4 are going to look to switch. And so when Thompson's at the 5, and now some teams will decide not to put their 5 on, which we've seen that, which even in the case of UNLV, they did that as well. So did Utah State, where they'll put maybe their 5-man on Maldo and then put their 4-3 on Thompson, knowing that Thompson's not one to really kind of get down in the post much as we'd like to kind of get down there and take advantage of some of the switches. But that's, we can't do that every time down, and that's not necessarily what he does. But he does space the floor, and, but when he is at the 4, it says he does keep it spaced, but at the same time too, he's not nearly as tough of a matchup when he's got that space to where he can pick and pop and slip into space and causes teams a lot of problems, which probably is the biggest thing when you're talking about when the other team's preparing for us. Probably the first thing on their list is, how are we going to defend Thompson?
Thank you.
Michael.
Jeff, I had some technical difficulties earlier, so I'm not sure if anybody already brought this up, but Marcus was named the Mountain West Freshman of the Year today. Is this the impact that you envisioned him having when you signed him? Did you think it would come this quickly for him? Obviously, he's had some ups and downs, but for the most part, he's been pretty dynamic.
I mean, I would think probably even talking to him, I mean, I think we'd probably be him, myself. I mean, all of us probably a little bit surprised how quickly he came on. And it's also was kind of a little bit of fool's gold from in the non-conference based off the quality of our opponents. And so, which I knew and the coaching staff knew as we made our way into conference off of what he had done in the non-con, that he's going to be at the top of everybody's scouting report. And I do think, that's where, even though he's tailed off a little bit here late, the difference between him and every freshman in our league, and there's some good freshmen that, but they're not at the top of the scouting report for the other opponent like Marcus Williams is. And so Marcus Williams is getting the other teams full attention. He's in the, he's bullet point 1 or 2 when it comes to, okay, how are we going to stop these guys? He's going to get probably their best perimeter defender. And I don't think that can be said for any other freshman in the league. And so for him to be able to have to kind of take on that responsibility, it's hard. And as we can see here, recently and down the stretch, and especially against some of the better defensive teams in the league, who have the discipline and effort not to break down as much. He's had his moments where he struggled, but also too, that struggle, which I tell him, if that's going to be the next step, if he can fight through that, that's going to be the next step for him to grow as a player. And, I didn't play him much the other night. And, my job is to prepare him to be a first team all league guy on a winning team. And which also, if you're that, now you're in the running to be, the MVP of the league. And so unfortunately for him, the way he's come on, the expectations have gone up, and whether it's right or wrong, sometimes he probably doesn't like it, but I hold him to a standard that, in my opinion, is going to allow him to be an MVP type candidate one day, and not just, the freshman of the year on a team that finished, in 8th place. And so, I think that's the biggest thing right now. And sometimes it's hard for 18-year-olds to understand that, it's, even though, it's great, it's not good enough. And, and I'm, like I said, my job is to prepare him, whether that's next year or when it comes to where he's a first team all league guy and MVP of the league. And so, but hopefully, I said, he can kind of push through some of the growing pains he's had to experience here recently. And that's when he's going to take the next big jump. And, but you got to fight through it. Cody.
Jeff, with all you just said about the, Marcus getting the best defender nearly every night, how much has that helped out Xavier Dussel in his growth?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing with, I'm not sure, with X, it's more about what X does. And what X has done, which has surprised me, because as I've said before, if you would have told me back in November that X would be maybe our best perimeter defender and our defensive stopper, I would have probably not agreed with you or thought that would have been the case. But that's what he's grown into. And, he just continues to get better. He kind of went through, and it's because of all the stuff that we've documented about, the time in quarantine, that, it took him a little bit longer to get, acclimated to things, but I also think too, it allowed him not to maybe hit the freshman wall as much as maybe some of these other guys, maybe the case of Marcus. And I think that's probably also the case with Graham, where Graham didn't have, the wear and tear, so to speak, or the grind of the season from late July until when he got back in January. So I think that's helped him as well, where you can see he's fresher. And so I think the thing with X though, is he's really, as I said, he's really smart. He knows he can really handle the information that's thrown him. He can handle the information like he's an upperclassman, and not, as we talk about, especially from a defensive standpoint and trying to grow to become a good defensive team, he's a guy that, you can count on over the course of the number of possessions he's in the game, that he's going to make very few mistakes. And so when you have him, you add a guy in the mix like Kenny, who's in the same boat, with a guy like Maldo, and now you're starting to add guys that's how you start becoming better defensively. And then I think Graham too has that natural feel to be a really good defender at the 5 spot, not just in terms of post defense, but his ability in the ball screen. And so, as I said, as the season goes on now, that's the exciting part, is that, I think that our team is, we're still getting better, and that's all you can ask for. Davis.
So Jeff, if you're going to give yourself a chance to make another run this year, what are the areas you feel like you guys have to be really good, or maybe even better than you were during the regular season to do that?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, I mean, you just got to the first, you got to figure out San Jose State. I mean, that's, and each team provides different challenges, and like I said, and that's all our focus is on now. And so, once again, it goes back to where the teams that win conference tournaments, the teams that can win 4 or 3 games, I mean, you're going to have to sit down and guard. It's a reason why Utah State's won the last 2 Mountain West Conference tournaments. Before that, San Diego State, those teams that have the ability to hang their hat on their defense, knowing that over the course of 3 or 4 games, I mean, you're going to have moments when you're not going to make shots, and that's what you got to rely on. And so if we're able to, if we want to make a run, then, you know, we're going to have to find a way to be pretty good defensively, which I think our defense has gotten better. Now it's got a lot of room to grow, but I think now as we got more players, more bodies to where we're not having to maybe play some guys when they're a little bit more tired. Now you got a chance to be a little bit fresher and a little bit better defensively. And so you got no chance if we don't guard. So that's going to be the biggest thing. Davis.
Jeff, even go back to the New Mexico series. You guys have been much more active on the glass and particularly keeping the other team off the offensive glass. Is there any particular reason or anything you put your finger on why that's been better down the stretch?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing is you probably even go back to Colorado State or even before that is, you know, Graham Ike came back. And I think that's where his ability to keep his man at the 5 off the glass and not being able to cave us in. And as you saw the other night, I mean, Hunter's a lot better rebounder when, you know, he's kind of coming from the perimeter where he's not having to worry about trying to put his body in between his man and the basket. I mean, he's never going to win that battle. He knows that. I know that. But that's where hopefully in time, if we can move him out to the perimeter a little bit more, you know, he goes and gets 11 rebounds against Utah State. So I think it's a accumulation of just the habits that we build. I mean, I said my teams have always been top 30 in the country in defensive rebounding percentage. So I don't expect that to change, but maybe that first year, it takes you a little bit longer to kind of just instill those habits. And it's a habit. Rebounding is a habit. And so I think as time's gone on, you know, we're just getting better, and that's all you can ask for. Cody.
Will you have your 4 returners talk to your young guys at all about, you know, they went into Vegas last year with absolutely zero expectations, and Quan Marble ended up on the all-tournament team and just really had a coming-out party. Kenny Foster was great. Hunter Thompson had his moments. Will you have them talk about kind of what it's like and what it takes?
Probably not. No. As I told them today, I mean, they're not getting they're not going to get the the rah miracle speech from me right now. Because at the end of the day, that's not who we're going to be. I mean, you hope that your program's to a point where you don't need, you don't go into the tournament where, you know, you want some pressure on you. You want the pressure knowing, hey, if you don't win a game, you might not get an at-large bid, and you're actually playing for something and not just, you know, hey, if we go in there and let's hope. And that's where I think for our guys, it's not a matter of, you're not a good team if you're having to get, you know, I'm having to give a speech before the conference tournament. As I told them, you prepare yourself, you know, on June 3rd, you know, when we come back to, you know, work out, like you win that day and then you win June 4th. And then by the time, you know, March 3rd or 4th comes, now you have a lot of days stacked up, and then you got the right habits to where hopefully now you're not the 8th seed, and now you're going in with a little bit, you know, a bye and a little bit better position to where you give yourselves a chance, a little bit better chance to go and win it. It's a lot easier to win 3 games than it is 4. And so, you know, it'll be good that those guys have that experience. But at the same time too, it's a new season. It's a new tournament. And, you know, for us, I mean, like I said, we want to continue to build to where we're not going into the tournament, like I said, as the 8th seed. I said, I mean, our goal is to go in there where there are expectations and then there are the right pressure. You know, it's easy to go into the tournament when you're the 10th, 11th seed and, you know, you can sneak up on people and you have no pressure on you. That's a recipe for, you know, disaster over the course of the long run. And so for us, it's a matter of, you know, we're not a program of rah-rah speeches. I mean, we're a program of building habits every day, and we just got to continue to do that. So when the time comes, we're actually ready to win a conference tournament. A lot like the last time they won a conference tournament, 2015, playing against that team. That team had the right habits. They were built the right way, and that's what allowed them to win the tournament. Tracy.
You know, obviously you would have liked to win a conference championship, but given the fact that there were only 4 players here that were left over and you brought everybody else in from outside, What's your feelings about the way everything is meshed and how everyone's fit together, seemingly a little quicker than some people might have expected?
Yeah, I mean, all things considered, I mean, to be in the position we're in right now, I mean, 13-10, and having lost 3 home games. I mean, UNLV, we only played once, and then you lose the 2 San Jose games. I feel like, we're in a good place. Now we got to continue to grow and continue to get better, but considering how young we are, which the numbers don't lie. I mean, 13 teams in the country that are younger than us. But young guys got to get old. And problem with this year is it's funny. It's a free year for players, although I guess it's not a free year for coaches, because it's amazing how many coaches are getting fired right now, which is kind of crazy considering the circumstances. I think it's nuts. But in terms of players, hey man, everybody's coming back. Even if we're going to be freshmen next year, but guess what? All those guys that were sophomores and juniors and seniors, last time I checked, Kejab from Boise State, he's going to be a senior again. So guess what? We better, those freshmen, you better get better, because you're going to be playing against seniors again next year. You're going to play against juniors again next year. And so, we got to continue to get better, knowing that, yeah, we'll be older, but everybody else is still going to be the same age. It's like, it's like Back to the Future, I guess. I don't know. It's just like, just the year just goes and back at it. But I do think it's that we're, with everything being said, with so many young guys, not having a full roster, which that was by design. I think that, people we're excited, and I think, the fans and everybody should be excited, because we got good pieces, and those young guys they're only going to get better. I mean, that's when guys make that big jump, is between their freshman and sophomore year. And so just hopefully that we'll have some time before that, but when that time does come, I mean, I think we got a chance to be pretty good.
All right, got any more questions, guys?
All right, guys. Thanks.
Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Jeff.
Have fun golfing, Nick.
I'm staring at the wind course, and it's
Yeah.
depressing.
Leave the
Thanks, guys.
machines alone.
What?
Leave those machines alone. Those one-armed bandits.
I can't afford that. I don't got your money.
Yeah, right.
All right, well, thanks, guys.